Amid escalating clashes in the Caribbean, American lives hang in the balance. Find out why the U.S. Embassy is sounding the alarm for expats in Trinidad and Tobago. In a move that's raising eyebrows across the region, the U.S. Embassy in Trinidad and Tobago has issued a stern warning to American citizens, urging them to steer clear of all U.S. government buildings in the Twin Island nation. This caution comes at a time when relations between the United States and Venezuela are fraying to an unprecedented level, driven by intense confrontations over deadly U.S. military operations in Caribbean waters aimed at suspected drug smugglers. But here's where it gets controversial. These strikes aren't just about law enforcement. They're sparking debates about international boundaries, sovereignty, and the ethics of using lethal force against alleged criminals. The embassy's alert stems from credible threats targeting Americans residing in Trinidad and Tobago, with U.S. officials suggesting a possible connection to the simmering tensions with Venezuela, which lies just a short distance across the water. As Roger Alexander, Trinidad and Tobago's Minister of Homeland Security, shared with the Associated Press, the situation has been discussed in briefings between U.S. representatives and local authorities. To put this in perspective for beginners, Venezuela's proximity, often just a few miles away, means that events there can ripple directly into neighboring countries, affecting everything from trade to personal safety. In fact, one community in Trinidad and Tobago is currently grappling with grief over the loss of 2 local fishermen who vanished after a U.S. strike earlier this week, believed to have resulted in their deaths. This human element underscores how these operations can have unintended consequences, touching lives far beyond their intended targets. The core of the conflict revolves around a series of aggressive U.S. actions in Caribbean waters, where the focus is on dismantling drug trafficking networks. Since last month, there have been 6 documented attacks on boats suspected of carrying illicit substances, with the most recent occurring on Thursday. This latest incident involved a submarine primarily loaded with fentanyl and other banned drugs, as President Trump announced on Saturday via his Truth Social platform. Under my leadership, the United States will not stand idly by as narco-terrorists flood our world with illegal narcotics, whether by land or sea, Trump declared, highlighting a zero-tolerance approach. For those unfamiliar with the term, narcoterrorism refers to the intersection of drug trafficking and terrorism, where criminal organizations use violence or intimidation to protect their operations, much like how cartels might threaten communities or undermine governments to maintain control. Adding to the drama, 2 survivors from the most recent strike, one from Ecuador and another from Colombia, will be returned to their home countries for questioning, detention, and potential prosecution. In total, these 6 strikes have claimed at least 19 lives, painting a picture of a region under siege. And this is the part most people miss. The Trump administration has classified these suspected drug traffickers as unlawful combatants, a term typically reserved for wartime enemies, justifying the use of military power against them. This framing expands the battlefield, blurring lines between civilian policing and full-scale military engagement, and it's a stance that could provoke intense disagreement. Is this an effective strategy for combating global drug issues, or does it risk escalating conflicts and violating international norms? In response, Trinidad and Tobago's authorities are ramping up security protocols to handle any emerging risks, though they're keeping specifics under wraps. This secrecy, while understandable for operational reasons, leaves room for speculation and concern among locals and visitors alike. The broader implications touch on themes of regional stability, with Venezuela and the Caribbean becoming focal points in this high-stakes standoff. What do you think? Does labeling drug traffickers as unlawful combatants cross a line, or is it a necessary measure in the war on drugs? Share your views in the comments. Do you agree with the U.S. approach, or should diplomacy take precedence over military action? Let's discuss.